In the summer of 1940, the world watched as the skies over Britain became the stage for one of history's most dramatic and defining aerial campaigns. The German Luftwaffe, having steamrolled through Europe, now sought to break the will of the British people by gaining air superiority. But against overwhelming odds, from July to September 1940, the Royal Air Force stood firm, engaging in a relentless fight for control of the skies, one that would ultimately determine the fate of Britain. Outnumbered but determined, the Spitfires, Hurricanes, and the brave pilots of the Royal Air Force proved that Hitler's seemingly unstoppable war machine could, in fact, be stopped. For decades, the clash of fighter aces and bomber formations has fascinated historians, writers, and filmmakers alike. Its combination of high-stakes aerial combat and acts of extraordinary courage made it a perfect subject for storytelling across every medium, from books and films to television and, eventually, video games. When 19-year-old Lawrence Holland graduated from Cornell University in 1978 with a degree in anthropology and prehistoric archaeology, game development wasn't even a blip on the radar. His early career followed an academic path, fieldwork on archaeological digs across Africa, Europe, and India, but the trajectory changed dramatically in 1981, when he moved to California to pursue a doctorate at UC Berkeley. Instead of enrolling in graduate school, Holland found himself drawn to a different kind of education, one delivered not in classrooms, but through the bits and bytes of the Atari 800 computer his roommate had brought home. What started as a passing curiosity quickly became a consuming passion. By 1982, Holland had acquired one of the first Commodore 64s off the production line. He taught himself assembly language, took programming courses, and before long, his skills were on par with seasoned professionals. In early 1983, he landed his first job in the industry at Human-Engineered Software, better known as Hezware, a company focused on bringing the arcade experience into living rooms across America. The company briefly became home to another rising star, when a young Ron Gilbert joined the company in 1984. But the timing was unfortunate. As the home computer market wobbled under the weight of oversaturation and economic uncertainty, Hezware collapsed and filed for bankruptcy in late 1984. The company's assets were acquired by Avant-Garde Publishing, which attempted to revive its development pipeline. One of Holland's final contributions under the Hezware banner was Project Space Station, a simulation game for the Commodore 64 released in 1985. By this point, Holland's talent for simulation and design was undeniable. Following the collapse of Hezware, both Holland and Gilbert found their way to George Lucas's Skywalker Ranch, joining the Lucasfilm Games division, though in very different capacities. Gilbert was hired as an in-house game designer, eventually becoming a key figure in shaping the modern graphic adventure. Holland, by contrast, joined the studio as a freelance programmer, with his first assignment being the port of the 1986 title, PHN Pegasus, to the Apple II. To the surprise of many, the fast-paced simulation of hydrofoil warfare, designed by Noah Falstein, became a bestseller, making it the first Lucasfilm Games title to sell over 100,000 copies. Holland continued working with Lucasfilm Games as an external collaborator. The next project, Strike Fleet, developed under the direction of Falstein, was an unofficial sequel to PHM Pegasus, offering a broader and more strategic take on modern naval warfare. Serving as lead programmer, Holland helped shape Strike Fleet into a thoughtful evolution of the genre, solidifying his reputation as one of the go-to developers for military simulations that struck a fine balance between realism and playability. With the release of Strike Fleet in 1987, Holland was ready to leave the 8-bit computers behind. The future was shifting toward more powerful 16-bit machines, and the IBM PC, rapidly becoming the platform of choice for serious gamers and developers alike, offered new possibilities. He soon pitched an ambitious new project to Lucasfilm Games. He wanted to create a World War II flight simulator, blending fast-paced aerial combat with historical accuracy and cinematic flair. The project became Battlehawks 1942, a bold departure from the sterile, technically minded flight sims that had defined the genre. Focusing on 4 pivotal naval air battles in the Pacific Theater, players engaged in aerial combat, aircraft behavior, and the strategic significance of each battle. The game drew widespread acclaim for its intuitive controls, gripping dogfights, and thoughtful historical framing. Critics highlighted its respect for the subject matter, while players appreciated how it made complex military history both accessible and thrilling. In 1989, Computer Gaming World named it Action Game of the Year, a clear sign that Holland's approach had struck a chord. He had shown that flight simulators could be more than technical showcases. Building on the momentum, Holland turned his attention to a conflict that hit closer to home for many, the desperate battle for air superiority over England in that fateful summer of 1940. The Battle of Britain, not only a crucial turning point in World War II, but also the backdrop for one of the most stirring speeches in modern history. On the 18th of June 1940, just over a month after assuming the role of Prime Minister, Winston Churchill stood before the House of Commons and declared, "This was their finest hour," a phrase heavy with defiance and resolve, a rallying cry for a nation under siege that would lend its name to Holland's next game. While Battlehawks had focused on discrete air battles, Holland's new project would introduce a structured campaign mode that let players influence the broader course of the war. He was drawn to the campaign's historical what-if stakes, a moment in history that could truly have gone either way. This time, players wouldn't just fly missions, they'd influence the course of history. A revamped game engine allowed for smoother flight dynamics and more detailed models, and now supported the ad-lib sound card, allowing for more prominent engine noises and gunfire sounds. Internally, the team tested various engagement scales and found that the engine's sweet spot was up to 16 planes on screen. Scenarios like 4 German bombers versus a dozen RAF defenders, or 6 British fighters against 10 Luftwaffe aircraft, yielded the most thrilling and balanced combat. The broader strategic layer was backed by a wide array of authentic aircraft. On the RAF side, players could take to the skies in the iconic Supermarine Spitfire or the rugged Hawker Hurricane. The Luftwaffe arsenal was more varied, with the nimble Bf-109, the twin-engine Bf-110 heavy fighter, the dreaded Ju-87 Stuka dive bomber, and 3 bombers, the Dornier Do-17, Heinkel He-111, and Junkers Ju-88. In bombers, players could switch between flying, manning defensive guns, and handling the bombardier's role. The game included training missions for each aircraft, as well as numerous historical scenarios, grounded in the actual tactics and objectives of the campaign. RAF missions leaned heavily toward defense, interceptions and scrambles to protect British targets, while the Luftwaffe focused on bombing runs and fighter escort duties. But perhaps most empowering for players was the addition of a built-in mission builder. For the first time, they could design their own scenarios from scratch, customizing objectives and enemy forces. Rounding out the experience was a robust film playback feature, allowing recorded flights to be reviewed, studied, and even shared, allowing players to perfect their skills or relive their greatest moments. By the fall of 1989, their finest hour, the Battle of Britain, was ready for takeoff. Released for IBM PCs in October, it brought Holland's cinematic, historically grounded vision to a rapidly expanding MS-DOS market. Packaged with the game was a 192-page manual, authored by copywriter Victor Cross, with contributions by Holland, a comprehensive volume that blurred the line between game supplement and academic resource. It offered players a full historical overview of the Battle of Britain, breakdowns of aircraft performance, and tactical insight into the campaign's major engagements. Praised not only by players but also by history buffs and critics, the manual was a testament to the game's ambition, positioning Their Finest Hour as both entertainment and a serious homage to one of World War II's most defining chapters. Their Finest Hour received widespread critical acclaim upon release. Computer Gaming World hailed it as one of the finest combat flight simulators ever made. Reviewers applauded the game's blend of authenticity, accessibility, and sheer thrill. Its improved graphics, campaign structure, and attention to detail set a new standard for the genre. In early 1990, Lucasfilm Games and Computer Gaming World partnered to host Their Finest Hour, the Battle of Britain competition, a contest searching for the best virtual pilot. The grand prize, an all-expenses-paid trip to England for the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Britain, accompanied by designer Lawrence Holland and Computer Gaming World editor-in-chief Russell Sipe. The tour, led by Valor Tours' Bob Reynolds, included a visit to the Farnborough Air Show, RAF museums, World War II air bases in East Anglia, and even a stop at a famous RAF-frequented pub in Cambridge. The competition itself unfolded across 3 rounds, with participants submitting pilot records, mission replays, and original scenarios built with the game's mission editor. The 5 finalists played each other's missions, and the top scorer was awarded the once-in-a-lifetime trip. That same year, Lucasfilm released a single expansion pack, Their Finest Missions Volume 1. Its title hinted at future volumes that never materialized. But the disc itself offered plenty. It featured 23 additional missions, some designed by finalists from the Computer Gaming World competition, as well as 1 veteran pilot for each of the game's aircraft. Among the highlights was Holland's own favorite mission, Suicide. In it, players took control of a Bf-110 tasked with bombing a radar station near Dover, while being pursued by 6 ace Spitfire pilots. The expansion leaned into the series' strengths with carefully crafted encounters, high-stakes action, and replayability that kept fans engaged long after release. Their Finest Hour's success cemented Holland's reputation and ensured that Lucasfilm Games would continue investing in the flight simulation genre. 2 years later, Holland and his team would push the genre even further with Secret Weapons of the Luftwaffe, an ambitious and detailed look at the Luftwaffe's experimental aircraft and the Allied bombing campaigns over Germany. With Their Finest Hour, Holland and Lucasfilm Games delivered one of the most respected and beloved combat flight simulators. After completing his World War II trilogy in 1991, Holland continued his collaboration with LucasArts, co-founding Totally Games and spearheading titles like Star Wars X-Wing and its sequels, games that brought the same attention to detail and cinematic flair to a galaxy far, far away.